So,
Well,
you know what? Let me do a formal welcome. So, Byron Stripling, it is a pleasure to absolutely have you, an absolute pleasure to spend some time talking trumpet and life.
yeah,
What are you doing these days?
sure. Well, so right now I'm in Columbus, Ohio, which is where I live.
Mhm.
I've lived here for almost 17 years. I moved here from New York, and I'm in my basement, as you can see. If I had a second, I'd take you for a tour, but this is where all my records are that I'm now trying to get rid of. So if you can help me with that, please do.
Well,
Because I would put them towards college tuition at this point.
yeah,
I have two girls in college. They're here with me, safe and sound,
yeah, good,
during this quarantine. So,
great. So, Columbus, Ohio, you said came from New York. Was it New York City that you
yes,
were
I
living?
lived in the New York City area. We had moved out to a place called Rockland County, about 40 minutes away. But I lived in the city for probably 7 to 10 years, and then
Mhm,
outside it for about 7 years, something like that.
mhm.
Um,
So,
so
what drew you to Columbus?
I conduct the Columbus Jazz Orchestra.
Oh,
It's been in
right.
existence for 47 years. I've been with it for the last 17 years
Hmm.
as the artistic director and the conductor. It's a nonprofit and full. It's a jazz band, five saxes, four trombones, four trumpets, bass, piano, and drums. And so it was originated by the great Ray Eubanks. And we've had soloists from the greatest in the world. We have a season that has it's a five concert season. Each concert has 4 nights of concerts, so it would be a Thursday,
Wow.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So it's run like an orchestra.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
yeah, it's tremendously successful. And I'm just happy that they exist, and we have
Mhm.
to keep it going through this craziness that we're going
Yeah.
through.
So, focus on the repertoire. Do you do a lot of standards? You do a mix of newer things? What do
So
you do with
we
that group?
we do all of that. So it's a great introduction to people who aren't jazz fans, because what I found, and most music is like that, and I do think symphony orchestras need to make this consideration, is most people are music fans, and so they will. If you have a way to get to their palate and introduce something without elitism. In the case of jazz, telling them and saying you must eat your spinach, so listen to Ornette Coleman or something like that, or in the case of an orchestra, people like to feed you that, and that's
Mhm.
cool. I love that stuff. If you do that stuff, I think you need to give people a bridge to it. Explain what to listen for, how the composer was thinking when he composed it, why he did it that way. That provides that bridge.
Mhm.
So I think it's tough in terms of an orchestra. If everybody walks on with tails, there's a dignity in that is absolutely important, but it might provide a block for certain people. They're like,
Agreed.
well, geez, all I got on my jeans. Is it okay to be here? One of the great places to experience classical music, I believe, is in someone's home, as is jazz. A quartet, string quartet or something, is amazing to experience that and sit in chairs with like 8 people. And, so that same experience and that same connection can be made in the concert hall. I wouldn't be, if I was a classical conductor, I wouldn't be afraid to call out, hey, did you hear Joe play the oboe solo on the last thing? Wasn't that it? Give Joe a big round of applause.
Right.
It's like, just make it a little bit more homey and folksy. But I realize that there's a dignity that the musicians have and an honor of that music, and they want to pull it up so that's respected that way. So
Yes, I
both
agree, but
sides.
I think there's a pretty good shift with musicians, myself included,
Uh-huh.
understanding that we have to appeal. We have to reach out. Rather, it is
Yeah.
appealing. All the music is appealing to somebody, but we have to reach out. And if we take the tails and just go to a regular tux,
Mhm.
right, or if we just wear a suit,
A
or
beautiful suit. Yeah.
you know,
Black suit, black tie. Yeah.
and it's still dignified, but it does. You're right. It takes part of that barrier away and
Yeah.
allows people to, uh, well, not that we break the fourth wall, right?
Mhm.
But there is a better access to the music.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, I
so
love classical music is my love, and I want it to succeed. And I worked for jazz to do the same thing. We have the certain issues. Actually, classical music sells more than jazz in terms of sales. So we have an even bigger issue of getting people to jazz. But this is what I say, and I'll leave the point after this, is that if I can get somebody in the concert hall, I can get you to like jazz. And
mhm.
I think classical music is the same. If you can get people in there, and you have to use creative things to do that, then it's your job to provide that bridge to them.
But I think you mentioned a really important thing. You said being in people's homes. What if the orchestra sent a quartet to do a little soiree or whatever they
Mhm.
want to call it in somebody's home? I think you have to meet people where they are
Yeah,
if you want them to come to where you are.
sure.
And I think
Absolutely.
that's, I don't know that everybody thinks that way, but I see it as, well, how can you miss
Yeah,
on something
yeah,
like that?
yeah.
You
And
know?
I want to belabor this point, but musicians have to be open to the internet rules the world, especially now. See, what COVID-19 has forced us to do is to live our lives in different ways and access things. You and I had not heard of Zoom 3 months ago.
Yeah, none of us
Now,
had, right?
uh, I'm on it all day, all the time now.
Mhm.
All my meetings are virtual and all that. We're actually in my organization. We're getting rid of one of our offices, which was a 5-room office. We just canceled our lease on that. They let us do it because we were doing all our meetings on Zoom and it was working fine.
Right.
So now we just have one place where we will go for meetings that if we need to meet in person.
Yeah.
So COVID has forced us to do this. So the big thing now is concert halls, and I'll try to be short on this. So what I'm trying to do in planning my season next year, which supposed to begin in October, will probably begin in December. Even with that, I'm having that be a live broadcast or a live stream.
Hmm.
But I've got to think, and orchestras need to think, what if people still can't come to concert halls? What if they can, but they don't feel comfortable? Every audience member has a different tolerance level. Some say, I'm not going out until they have a vaccine. Some say, I'm not going out until they say, I don't need a mask.
Hmm.
Some will say, as long as I'm distanced and I can have them. So there's all these different scenarios. So what that says to me is we need, in any case, virtual programming where people can go online and look at that. And we have to charge them for it as if it were a
Absolutely.
concert.
Yes.
And then we have to do a bunch of free stuff to bring them into that, which is interviews with musicians and maybe somebody giving a sample of what they're going to hear. But just like a corporation thinks. And so the musicians and the public has to be both adaptable. They have to be adaptable anyway, because we have to change it. We as musicians have to be adaptable, realizing that the future of our careers depends upon that.
Nobody could have predicted that this would be a catalyst to something as drastic as what's going to come out on the other side, right?
Yes,
This is
yes.
no slow evolution of an industry.
This is get your stuff together right now, or otherwise you're left behind.
Right.
There are orchestras that have given up. Nashville,
Unfortunately. Yeah.
uh, New York is not. Some people said we are not doing anything until 2021. For me, that's not an option. I think that we have to. So I give Facebook things every week. I do Facebook interviews like this one, but I also do performances on Facebook Live. Not necessarily always featuring me. I have vocalists, I have instrumentals. I have one every Sunday until we go back into business. I'll be doing it, and we probably won't be able to stop it because people like it. That's our connection currently.
Yeah.
But I do not want people to forget the music we provide, nor should any orchestra.
Well, I don't even think the patron will agree that online content is the best.
Right.
It gets us through times like this.
Yes.
But I would venture to say, my wife and I drove out last night to get something, and we passed a restaurant that was absolutely packed. And I said to her, I said, people cannot wait. People they want to get back, so the restaurants. But I think it's going to be that same thing when orchestras finally open up, is people are going to want that live experience again.
Yes, absolutely. They will. They
Yeah.
will. In the meantime, we tease them.
Right. Right. You know what? I have not yet been brave enough to put myself out there. I've got a lot of friends, uh, Mary Elizabeth Bowden, all these great players.
Albazuti's putting good stuff out.
Right.
Always.
It's like you live and die by your last performance. I don't want to put anything out there that's not good.
Right.
So
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'll wait my turn. I'll wait my turn. Well, let's talk trumpet. We haven't said a whole lot about that just
Sure.
yet. You still practicing during the summer here, or what
Have
kind of
to.
stuff
Yeah.
are you working on these days? Are you new rep? Are you writing? Are you?
All of that. So a typical thing with me is I try to do a warm up, but I try to make that different because I feel that if I'm always doing the same thing, my playing sings that way. So I always try to figure out new ways to warm up in any kind of routine, which makes me nervous, the word, because I don't want my routine to become routine.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to figure out how I can make everything I play be a part of growth to make me, a better player. So I'm going to go to any standard method books and, I have a million of them and I just pick and choose. My new thing, what I've been doing is I just copy and make a notebook of what I want to currently practice,
Mm-hmm.
So I have a bunch of flow studies I copied, and that way I don't have to have a whole bunch of different books. and I put everything in one notebook. So
Yeah.
like all these flow studies I'm doing, I make sure I do some, Bill Adam has some good exercises, Schlossberg, ones I haven't done. I've been trying during this quarantine to do all this stuff. Like, yeah, I really need to get to that one. Some of the stuff in the back of the Schlossberg, I've seen Ray Mace does a lot of those. He recommended. So I was like, yeah, let me do some of those. Then I get into etudes pretty quickly, which is something I learned from our friend Vinny Di Martino, who used to really push me on etudes. He's like, you have to get out of exercises pretty quickly. And I would also learn that great lesson from another teacher, Charlie Geyer, who I took from at Eastman School of Music. And I was an exercise guy. I could play the Clark Studies upside down. And Vinny had told me to memorize them, See, I didn't study formally with Vinny, but he said, if I'm teaching a lesson, you can come watch.
Oh,
So
wow.
I would just sit there and drool. And yeah, because I had never, and at the same time, I was sitting beside him in a band they had called the Arrangers Holiday back in the 1980s. And Vinny played lead trumpet in that. And so many lessons from him. I'll give you a couple quick ones. He said, these arrangers, it was for arrangers. It was a workshop and they were all really good, but they were still learning. Vinny said, I always play what they write, even if it's hard. And I play the crap out of it. He goes, then I tell him how stupid it was to write that hard. But the thing is, he had the credibility to do that. Right. So they would respect him like, wow, I wrote this hard stuff. It was too high. It was too technical. It was too stupid. It wasn't musical. So he'd do it. And he'd go, that's like the stupidest thing I've ever played. Why the heck? He'd do it offline, like on the side. Like, why would you write this? It's ridiculous. He did that. He had a thing with conductors. He would tell them if he couldn't follow their beats. Like, what? First he'd nail it. He goes, but I can't follow that. Like, he was very clear. Again, the reason you can do any of that, and nobody ever thought of him as being a drag, because he could always deliver on the playing, right? And so also with improvisation, they passed out charts with really hard changes, stupid changes sometimes that didn't make sense. He would play them, sound great, and say, these are horrible changes. Why are you writing these things, So that's what I learned from him. Become less of a complainer, do it, like deliver. And then if you've got something to say about it, say that, or don't say it, So he was a guy who walked his talk, and he, for me, said, it's all about the etudes. So he had this Aaron Harris book. He had the which I don't know if it's got all these sort of violin things and stuff in the back. He would play those for me and students. So in addition to that, tons of Schlossberg, tons of any kind of thing like that. And then he would send me to improvisation and tell me how to practice that. And one of the things I never forget, he says, Stripling, and this would be a classic Vinny quote, which you'll recognize. He said, your time sucks, but he said it with such love that it's like, I love you, but your time sucks, and he's being he goes, don't play anything without a metronome for a couple years. I'm like, oh, this is serious, but that was his prescription. Like, okay, take this medicine, be deliberate about it. And when I'm with you, I'm going to hold you accountable to that. Whether I'm sitting you in a section or whether we're going to hang for a couple hours and play duets, you're speeding, you're rushing, you're slowing down, So this is, to me, the best teaching, because it gives you, as I said before, so much credibility. You walk your talk. It's the real thing is I'm telling you this, and I do it with my own teaching now. If I tell you to do something, I'll actually do it for you first. This is a leadership principle too. Leaders go first, right? So I should be the first one. Like, we just took salary cuts in my organization. I took the first one.
Wow.
But I have to lead. How can I say, I'm making a whole bunch of money, y'all need to take a cut? That's not leadership. Leadership is we go first and we set the example, and that's the way Vinny taught. So that's the answer, a long answer to your question. That's when I'm practicing improvisation, learning new songs I haven't done, learning new etudes I hadn't practiced, and that kind of thing.
Well, I'm glad you gave the long answer. That was worth it. I mean, there's a lot of great stuff in there. You mentioned the leadership. What I had learned along the way is do it for them, do it with them.
Yes.
Have them do it with you. have
Yeah.
them do it by themselves, right? I mean, it's exactly
I
what you're
like
saying.
that.
It's that
I have to
evolution.
write that down. Go back. Do
uh,
it
do it
for
for
them.
them,
Mhm.
do it with them, have them do it with you, have them do it by themselves.
By
You know,
yourself.
it's like, riding a bike. You're helping them along as they
Yeah.
take those training wheels off, right?
Yeah.
And I think so. Yeah, I mean, that's I think one of the most effective ways to teach or reach
Yeah.
somebody.
Sure.
And it's
Sure.
not about the teaching can only happen when you actually reach.
Yeah.
You get somebody's attention and they know what to do. So
Right. Right.
yeah. Can I come study with you?
No, it should be the other way
No,
around.
no, no, no. Are you kidding? This is, and of course, I have a lot of fun doing these interviews because this is what it turns. This is really just a free lesson. Don't don't tell anybody. Right?
I like that.
No, it's not. So, yeah, like a lot of other people though, these downtimes, it's sometimes hard to find the motivation to pick up the
Mhm.
horn. Or have you experienced that at all?
The one thing I have, because could lie and say, "Oh no, I'm a master,"
Mhm.
Yeah, I found that it ebbs and flows, and I've been reading, and people say, "Yeah, that's what it's going to be," because this is a long period of time.
Yes.
So the gigs help me when I do these Facebook Live things. I know I've got to have my chops up to a certain level,
Mhm.
but I came in here guns blazing. It's like, man, I'm going to make my point. I'll miss a few days, and then I'm like, okay, got to get back at it, and that's okay.
Mhm.
At
Mhm.
first I was feeling guilty about that, but I found a lot of people were saying, "Yeah, that's what happens."
Yeah. Yeah.
So we can be comfortable with that ebb and flow. I also have a list of books I want to read. So
Yeah.
that's part of it too,
Yeah.
My house we have so many books, it's ridiculous. There's probably 1,000 books over on this shelf over
Mm,
in the corner here, and then 500 more behind that too.
mm.
So my goal is all my life to read every single one of those. Some
Do you
of them
ever
are my parents, you know.
Yeah. Do you have a particular genre that you like? What do you like?
Nonfiction usually. Um, I like travel things where people have written about their travels. It's a great, God, I forget one of my favorite books is called Travels with Charlie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
great book. Just about, traveling, guy traveling with his dog.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right now I'm reading, a guy created an autobiography of Martin Luther King. He never wrote one, but he calls it an autobiography because he sort of took those things from his life that personal papers, letters, and
Mhm.
speeches, and he created what he called an autobiography. And
Mhm.
that's been fun to read too.
Nice.
So,
Nice.
yeah.
Well, let's talk about travel for a minute. I mean, I would imagine you've been all over the world. Is that true?
Yeah, I've been fortunate. I mean, I have not been to China or Russia. Um, but I'd like to get to China. I don't know
Mhm.
if I want to go to Russia at this point, at least.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All of that, a mix between being a soloist and with other groups?
Yes. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, so when I left Eastman School of Music, I was literally on the road with no home for probably 10 years before I settled in New York. And so that was all travel. Every year we went to, you have to understand that jazz was and still is tremendously popular, more popular back then. Um, they really loved the culture of what jazz was. So when I left school, I've probably spent, in terms of a yearly thing, probably 9 to 10 weeks out of a year in Europe,
Mm.
you know, and then maybe Japan every other year for 3 weeks we would
Mhm.
go, so, and this is with multiple different groups or multiple different things, but I definitely went there with the Count Basie band, the Woody
Mhm.
Herman Orchestra, Lionel Hampton's band, Woody Herman's band, Buck Clayton had a band. I went.
Um, you mentioned Basie. Were you in Mike Williams? You guys had to have been in that at the same time.
Sure. So when I got there, actually, I was there for a while. Then Mike came on as a fourth trumpet player. He became
Mhm.
highly recommended. And then I went and left and did a show called Satchmo, America's Musical Legend. So then they moved Mike up and he played lead because they
Mhm.
had known that he could play lead. And then when I finished that show, about 8 month run of that, then they asked me to come back, and Mike went back to fourth. And then I came back as the lead player. I stayed another year or so, and then Mike became the permanent lead player. We call him Swamp Dog.
Yeah, right. So I interviewed him last year at ITG down in
Yeah,
Miami. What a hoot,
he's
you know.
crazy.
And he's another great storyteller.
Oh yeah.
It's just and so
He
I
could
just
always tell a great story.
yeah,
But he does the thing. He eats the hot peppers and blows his head off. He's crazy.
yeah,
He
yeah.
cooked
Swamp Dog.
gumbo with me and Swamp Dog. And no, he's a Louisiana guy.
Right.
He cooked gumbo for me in California with a friend of ours, Danny House, and it was a great gumbo. And we tasted it. Mike, this is amazing. He goes, it needs one more thing. I said, what? He goes, squirrel.
And he's serious, right?
He's totally serious.
Oh my gosh.
It's nice to be
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So how long were you with the Basie band in total?
So probably on and off about 4 years. There's amazing experiences that happened there because Basie had just died when I got there, but we still had amazing legends on the band like Freddie Green, who's gone, Danny Turner, who's gone, Eric Dixon, who's gone. So many of the guys have left. Mel Wanzo, who was lead trombone player for years. Sonny Cohen is gone, who was there for 25 years. So I was on the bus with guys, and I've always been attracted to older men anyway, just from the knowledge that they have. And my parents always said, when you're around older people, be respectful and basically just shut up and listen to them and let them. That's an old Southern. I'm from Georgia. And they're like, you respect the older people. I used to be like, when we would go to church, my mom would be like, the old ladies love you because, Mom, they want to kiss me. And I said, you let them kiss you.
Right.
Like, oh, they love you.
Yeah.
So let them, they see this young, as a kid, let them love you,
And there was nothing wrong with it, right? I mean, that was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So, in regards to the Basie band, there were so many things that happened. And we're playing every night behind Frank Sinatra, behind Tony Bennett, with Sarah Vaughan, with Ella Fitzgerald. The first time we're riding to the venue to see Ella Fitzgerald, or to go play with her, I'm scared. And the guys, this is an interesting thing. The guys told me, hey, when we get to rehearsal with Ella, we're going to all get off the bus and go give her a hug and a kiss. And I'm like, I don't know her. Like, you guys work with her all the time. I don't know her, so I'm not going to join that. And check this out. They said, no, you have to do it because if you don't give her a hug and a kiss, she'll think you don't like her.
Oh, wow.
Like, that's how insecure she was. This
Really?
lady who could go on stage and knock the roof off with her singing was so insecure. And they're like, no, you've got to give her a hug. And she wants to know you, will introduce you and that kind of thing. But then
Wow.
at the same time, we were in these European tours. Every summer we went to Europe for 3 weeks, as well as we would go in the fall or the winter. And I'm on the plane and the guys goes, hey, Miles is up in first class. We want to introduce you to Miles, because Miles was on this thing, on this tour, this European tour. I said, wow, that'd be amazing. So,
How old are you at this point?
I'm 23.
Okay.
So yeah.
Young.
So
Yeah.
I walk up to the front of the thing and the guys say, hey, Miles, we want you to meet our new lead trumpet player. This is Byron Stripling. And he says, he said, MF. You're a big MF. I went, ooh. And then he started punching me like this and just like hitting me real hard. And I said, come on, man, stop. And then Miles always challenged people. Like he would
Wow.
you have to like tell them, there's that whole thing my dad said, you have to teach people how to treat you,
Wow.
Well, that was certainly true with Miles. Like, so he wasn't going to stop. So I said, come on, man, stop. Like, but Miles used to fancy himself a boxer. So, but it was fine. It was a fine interaction. I walked down to baggage claim with him, and he met this lady named Simone, who was a big European producer and concert promoter, who was very famous in jazz world. So I'm standing with him and Simone waiting for the bags to come out, just trying to make what little small talk I could with Miles, because he wasn't really a talker. And so Miles looked at Simone, who was in charge of everything. And by this time, the local promoter had come out in addition to her. And Miles said, I want everybody in this band to have tickets for the concert tonight. Miles had the, very soft voice. He had lost his voice from screaming at a guy after a throat, operation, for those that don't know. So the local promoter said, oh, I'm very sorry, Mr. Davis. The concert is completely sold out. We don't have tickets for anybody. So unfortunately, your friends cannot attend. And Miles said, well, then I'm not playing. And then it got really funny,
Yeah.
So Simone, who was a problem solver, it's all about wanting to solve problems. She goes, Miles, this is no problem. We will get the guys in the band. We will put seats on the stage and they can sit on the stage with you as you perform.
Even better, right?
Done, yeah, right. So I got, and that happened twice with Miles for
Mhm.
me. Happened also when I was playing with a group led by Slide Hampton, the great trombone player. And we would sit on stage. And so I got to sit and just watch Miles perform. It was later in his career, but just get that vibe and that energy of who and what Miles was. And
What'd
so
that feel like?
um it was, there was a lot. Miles was very, the music was always great. It was a different part of his career. It was different chops, but still great. And he still sounded like Miles and still creative. Played a lot of piano, a little bit of trumpet. When you heard the trumpet, like, that's Miles Davis. That's what. So that was amazing. There was also, Miles was always a showman. And people don't like when I say this, but I believe that if you turn your back to the audience, that's a show.
Mhm.
Right. So he often turned his back and then that can get you on the front pages of the paper. At this time, he had begun to lose hair, so he got a hair weave. And what he was wearing essentially would be costumes.
Mhm.
That's a show. So people talk about Louis Armstrong always gave a show. Man, he was more of a showman than a trumpet player. Well, that was part of his tradition, and there's a long thing with that. You can interview a guy named Ricky Riccardi for that. He wrote a book called What a Wonderful World. He has a new one called something about Louis Armstrong and swing, but he can give you the whole chronology of why entertainment was so important to Louis Armstrong. It was to Miles too, just in a different way. Guess what sold Dizzy Gillespie? Puff cheeks. Dizzy told me, I never had a publicist. I said, why? He goes, my cheeks always sold it for me. People knew exactly who I was, which leads me to my next Basie story. We did a 6-week tour with Dizzy Gillespie and Billy Eckstine. Well, I had toured with Dizzy's big band. John Faddis got me that gig. They let me leave the Basie band to do that too for 3 weeks. So I knew Dizzy well. Plus Faddis, I hung with him and Lou Soloff all the time in New York. Lou Soloff is gone. I love him like a brother. So John had got me on Dizzy's band. I knew Dizzy from that. So when Dizzy came to do this Basie tour, I was in charge of his bags and all that stuff because he didn't carry any. So I was with Dizzy 24/7 for 5 weeks, In fact, during that period of time, after we finished that tour, I moved to New York and he called me up one day. He says, hey, I'm getting the Kennedy Center Award. I said, yeah, I heard. Congratulations. He goes, well, my wife, I think it was Lorraine, Lorraine doesn't like to leave the house. I was like, yeah. He goes, would you sit behind me? And I couldn't because I had just started this Broadway show called City of Angels, which was written by Cy Coleman, but the arranger was Billy Byers, and it was great music.
Yeah.
So I couldn't leave because the first 3 or 4 weeks of a Broadway show, you can't sub out. So I couldn't leave. But I was honored that Dizzy asked me for that. I just have great memories of being around Dizzy during that period of time.
So you mentioned Louis Armstrong.
Yes.
And of course, that's how I've first experienced you live was
Okay.
this tribute to Louis and Ella, right? With you and Carmen.
Yeah.
How did all that come about? I mean, obviously you're a fan of Louis Armstrong, but how did that whole tribute come about?
I'll try to give you a short version. I'll do the best I can.
I'll take the long version if you want to.
I'll make it somewhat longer.
Okay.
So in about 1987, 86, I'm horrible with years. I was reading in Downbeat magazine and also the Musicians Union newspaper. Can you play like Louis Armstrong? We're auditioning to do a show. So I was like, I can do that, And so I went and auditioned for it, and they had auditions in 5 cities, including Los Angeles, New York, Washington, D.C., a couple other states and cities. And so I auditioned, and I immediately got a call back. And then after the call back, they let me know I was a final, and I went to my final audition in New York, and I got the job. The show was called Satchmo, America's Musical Legend. The directors were Jerry Billick and Joe Layton. It was choreographed by Maurice Hines, who's Gregory Hines' brother and still a good friend to this day. He also introduced me to my wife, so I'm thankful for that. So I did that show. We closed probably after 6 months of rehearsals and performances. We did the Kennedy Center. And so I started in this show as Louis Armstrong, and it was a cast of probably about 50 people. It's a huge production,
Mhm.
dancers and musicians on stage and that whole thing. An amazing learning experience for me. I learned, and I do to this day add theatrical aspects to how I think about how to put together a show. That was a great learning experience. My acting coach, who I insisted that I would have if I were to do the role, I told the producer, I'll do this, but you have to get me to New York, house me 6 weeks before the first rehearsal, and let me work with an acting coach. He goes, wow, that's a good idea. I'm like, I know, and that's what you got to do if you want me.
Yeah.
He was a great producer. His name was Kenneth Fell. He was the owner of Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus, as well as a couple ice shows. He's still a good man, and occasionally I get to touch base with him. So I did that show, and then that show closed, but I made some great friendships and associations with that. So a guy named Bill Cosell, I was able to download that name, called me up, and he said, hey, I just saw you on Entertainment Tonight. Would you, and I heard your show closed, would you like to play a Louis Armstrong tribute with the Boston Pops and John Williams? And I said, no, I've got to get my legs waxed. So I said, no, of course, you know.
That's going in the show quotes right there.
No, I've got to get my legs waxed. So I have to tell you a quick trumpet story too, regarding this thing. So we arranged it. I had heard the arrangements that the Boston Pops did, and even I was 26 by this time, and some of them I didn't like, and I wanted to direct it towards what I liked. I said, I'd like my friend Manny Album to do it. Manny has since passed away, but he's an amazing arranger. And they have their staff arrangers, and they said, well, I'll have to ask. We'll have to ask John Williams. So they asked John Williams, and it was so cool. He's like, absolutely, let's have Manny Album do the arrangement. Okay, so he did it. We had a Louis Armstrong medley that was 15 minutes that I did with the Boston Pops. In the rehearsal for that, I went up to the dressing room. I could see it now because I played with the Boston Pops probably a million times since then. And I go up in that room, and I see John Williams sitting there, and we're going to do a piano trumpet rehearsal with John so he can hear what's going on. And I'm such a typical trumpet player. I'm like, I've got to impress John Williams in this small room. And I really just needed to mark my part. I didn't need to play. I was like, as we say, it's balls to the walls. I got to let this guy know I can do this. And there was all this high stuff. I had a thing called Shine, which Louis recorded, which just has a really cool cadenza that leads up to an high F. And I'm like, I'm a trumpet player. I'm like, I got to nail this high F so John Williams knows I got it, man. You know, it's like, because every gig's an audition until you're there, I just remember John Williams being so sweet and the whole rehearsal going like this.
Oh my gosh.
And he would turn the page of the score. He would go, but I didn't get it. You know how dense we are as trumpet players. It's like, I want to show him all this stuff. So he was so sweet. And I always wanted to talk to him about that period of time. And it's like, John, I just want to apologize to you for that because he never said, man, can you play a little softer? I don't know if you ever stayed with Carmine Caruso in New York, but he would wear headphones when you would play these, like what the airplane people wear, and that's what John Williams needed for my thing. Anyway, John was sweet, and then I went on to do a couple more gigs with them, and then since then I've gotten to play a lot with Keith Lockhart, who's the current conductor and a great person and a great friend. Yeah.
So the Louis Armstrong trumpet playing is one thing, but what about the singing?
So what I always tried in the show, I did a little bit of his gravel in the voice, but it actually hurts your voice to do that. So I didn't emphasize that too much. So part of my character development was try to get things like the walk, a little bit of the accent, but just the feeling and the spirit of who and what he was. And so your text as an acting coach would tell you, your text and what you say will help you in that. But also being imbued with the reality of who you knew this man was. And so I had probably read 5 or 6 books about him. And Carmine Caruso even told me when I told him I was doing that, he was so helpful for me. He's a great trumpet teacher. And he said, you've got to step into those shoes. You've got to play with those recordings and you have to become him. And and he was just saying that because I just happened to mention it, but he immediately jumped on it, and he was exactly right. So vocally, I wasn't so concerned with making people hear like, because and that can drive you crazy a little bit, but you can give a little bit of that, like sometimes like, oh yeah, and just give a
Right.
little of those, and then you still save your voice from that.
Right.
And then I would sing with his phrasing, but not give a lot of gravel.
Yeah.
So
Did you ever get to hear him live?
no, I'm not that old. No,
Well,
no, I
I'm
understand.
just curious.
No, but to your point, I mean, I heard Duke Ellington
Mm-hmm.
live 4 times. I heard Count Basie all the time. Heard
Mm-hmm.
Woody Herman's band, Buddy Rich's band all the time. But then my father was a classical singer, so I heard Marilyn Horne, Leontine Price, Beverly Sills. I heard Pavarotti, and any other good people. We heard. I lived in Minnesota at the time. We heard the Minnesota Orchestra all the time. Charlie Schluter was playing first trumpet. I just saw him in St. Louis, where he's retired, and he
Mm-hmm.
took me out to lunch and that was a cool thing to
Mm-hmm.
be around and hear trumpet sounds like that at an early
Right.
age. Back then, Charlie was playing a Bach, and I just remember Tchaikovsky fourth, and just remember him just singing over the orchestra with his beautiful sound.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I really like that Bach trumpet. I'm not a trumpet geek guy, but I love that Bach
Yeah.
sound he got.
Yeah. Well, didn't he finish his career on a Monette?
Yes,
Yeah.
that was the point I was making.
Yes. That's why I followed up on that, right?
I I love Charlie Schluter, and
Yeah.
and I have nothing bad to say about him.
Yeah. Oh,
But
so many great players out there. Yeah.
you basically have the opportunity with what you're doing to get a history that a lot of people, if you can get somebody that's a little bit lesser unknown, um, you have
Yeah.
the opportunity to get a historic interview with some of
Yeah.
these guys. Yeah,
But,
she's great.
somebody who can, and you close your eyes, it's like, well, that's Louis Armstrong, right? I was at Roger Ingram's house a couple of years back, and he was restoring mutes at the time, and he's still got a
Okay.
collection. So he
Yeah.
opens this cabinet up and he says, here's this mute, and then he hands me another. He says, yeah, this is Louis Armstrong straight mute. I said, oh, cool. His brand, his model. He goes, no, this was Lewis's straight mute. He left it on a piano after a gig, and I don't know what provenance there is. I said, but may I hold it? Of course. I put it in my horn and played a little bit. But there's something about that tactile, if
Yeah.
it really was,
Yeah.
that's as close as I'm ever going to get,
Yeah.
to Louis Armstrong. But still,
Yeah. I want you to interview. Which I can shoot you my interview, but this guy I told you about before, Ricky Riccardi, he is
yeah,
the world's authority on Louis Armstrong.
yeah.
And if you go to Queens College, where the Louis Armstrong archives are, and also the house is very close to there too, Louis Armstrong House,
Mhm.
uh, he will let you play Louis Armstrong's trumpets.
Ah,
So
wow.
there's that tree. But one last story on him and what they do. So people call them up at the Armstrong house and say, hey, I'm in New York. I'm landing. You said this was possible. Can I come to the Louis Armstrong house now, straight from the airport? I really want to see it.
Mhm.
And they say, if they're available, they're like, absolutely, come on. And, you can leave your luggage. We'll help you put it somewhere where it's safe.
Mhm.
He said that people walk in and they start crying
Mm.
because it's the effect of Louis Armstrong's music out of all those years. Louis Armstrong said, "I'm here because of happiness," and you certainly felt that when you played or heard his music. And it's that smile, that genuine smile, that naturalness, where he had so many things that we would consider to be faults. He smoked too much cigarettes, he smoked marijuana, he drank too much, he was overweight, he ate too many fatty foods and had a heart attack, all that stuff. And then you look at that, it's like, yeah, that's me. I do the same things too. So these days, if you want to be a quote unquote star, you have to have your vegetarian chef and all that. Louis Armstrong was just about having a great time and making other people happy, and in essence serving people through the great music he did, and people felt it all over the world. And I
Mhm.
think that still resonates again when people walk in that house and they realize that they were Satchmo's house, this guy that provided them so much joy in their life, and they well up and they still cry because his music was that powerful.
Who do you think embodies that today? Can you think of people? I mean, I would actually include you in that because,
Oh,
as I mentioned
no.
at the beginning, your ability to connect. There's a sincerity. There's a genuine.
Well, yeah, I appreciate it. I
quality.
hope I hope I have a sincerity in that. Louis Armstrong was so unique. You have to realize that this is a guy who came from a place where didn't know his father, didn't know who his father was. We think his mother and possibly his sister were prostitutes.
Mm,
But he loved her, and he loved both of them. But he was able to rise above all of that. That's the American dream, that out of suffering comes great art.
mhm,
You know what I'm saying? So this is important to where we are now with the riots and all of that. To know that America is about dreams, and people have, through whether they're immigrants, whether they're black people or whatever, they've taken what they've been given and they've talk about turning lemons into lemonades. They turn all that sorrow into joy and happiness and inevitably peace, And I have to tell you, I don't want to get political here, but that's sort of the black tradition. If you remember, do you remember Dylan Roof? He's the guy who went and killed all the people in the South Carolina church. They were having
oh yes, yes.
that's Dylan.
Yeah.
So they were having a prayer meeting, right? Sitting in a circle.
Hmm.
And he comes in and they look at him and they go, come on in. So I have to tell you, that's the black tradition. That's the tradition I know. So this white guy comes in and it's all black church. I've been to the church. I told when I went to play the South Carolina, I said, take me to that church. Because I just need to honor that and what happened there. And so they said, come on in. And he sat with them and they welcomed him with open arms, And then I don't know if you've heard this, he said, I almost thought of not doing it because they were so loving and welcoming to me to their prayer meeting. And then it just broke. And then he started shooting all those people. Those people immediately, like the next day, they talked about forgiveness. Do you know what I'm saying? That's what their thing was. It wasn't like, we hate you. To me, that's the black tradition I know. Is like, you immediately like, I don't want to get into religion either, but that's what religion says in terms of if it's Christianity. It's like the ultimate in forgiveness. Some people live that and they act on it. Some people talk about it. And as we talked about with private teaching, it's all about your actions, actually the things that you do. And I'm just so proud that I'm a part of a tradition of people who there's bad in every race, creed, and color, but I've been around so many people who act that, who they put feet to their prayers, they put feet to their actions, that they say what they say they want to do, they do it. And I'm just proud of that. So,
I actually thought about talking about some of this before the
sure.
interview started.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought that up because I think it would have been awkward.
No, not with me. You can bring up anything.
I think you answered one of my questions is I'm afraid to react or to say anything because, I'm, have I suffered? No. And I mean, yes, but not, and that's what I'm saying.
Different
I'm afraid
thing.
even saying,
Yeah.
I'm afraid to even say that right now because there's no comparison. Right. And it's like, what can I do I can't empathize, but what can I do to sympathize? And what can I say to you? And I truly think, you're my fellow man, right? I want to love everybody out there. And I'm embarrassed and ashamed for, the way a lot of people act. But what can I do to let you and other communities know that I'm with you?
But you just did it already. You called me up and said, I want to interview you.
Mm.
You could have just been afraid and like, I don't even want to go there. They got to figure that stuff out before I talk to Byron. So your life is already there. There's nothing for you to do except just continue who you are and have empathy. But you have your struggles too. And I want to honor and acknowledge whatever struggles you are. Here's what I will mention to you about what I struggle with, which you might not know. I told you that I do a walk every day. My wife now walks with me because she's afraid if I get stopped by the police that they might kick my ass. That might be a little different than what you think about in going out for a walk. Now, whenever I get stopped. I've been stopped in my life 3 times by the police. Speeding, I drive too fast, and I might have made a wrong turn. I can't remember what it was. I have to say, every one of those was positive interactions.
Mm.
I called a policeman one time I stupidly in New York left my garage door open and I left the door into the house open. I'm like, somebody must have robbed the house, you know? So I called the police. The guy walked through, white guy, policeman, walked through my whole house with me.
Mm.
He took out his billy club and he had good humor about it. He goes, this happens all the time. You probably left your garage open, but let me go. Let's look through underneath all the beds and in the closets. We'll do that together, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I've also seen films of people doing things that they shouldn't have done police-wise. So are all policemen bad? All my interactions with policemen have been good.
Mm-hmm.
Have not, you know, and that's great. And I try to be respectful, although I'll tell you this quick. There's a great trumpet player. Do you know Clay Jenkins?
I know the name.
Okay. Clay teaches jazz. There's a white trumpet player who teaches jazz at the Eastman School of Music. I just did part of his sabbatical for him for a couple weeks. And he's from Texas and I love him. He's like my brother, you know? And so we were driving to the International Trumpet Guild. It was raining. He was driving. We rented a car. We were both playing in the Count Basie band. He was going like a bat out of hell. He must have been going 80 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to Santa Barbara from Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. Santa Barbara, California. It's like 2-3 hour drive. Going crazy because we wanted to see whatever we wanted to see. Somebody was playing. So we get stopped and the thing goes on. And so he's an old Texas boy. He goes, the guy's pulled up behind us. The siren's going. He goes, Byron, I'll be right back. And he run. I was like, don't get out of the car. You know, right? He runs back. I am freaking. So he comes back about 2-3 minutes later, buckles his seatbelt. We're good to go. Wow. I was like, what just happened? He said, I told him we were in a hurry.
Oh my gosh.
I told him we were going to the International Trumpet Guild. And he said, okay. That was it.
Oh my gosh.
I just realized that that's not an interaction that would have went that way had I been stopped, you know? Yeah. Those are just little things. I just try to be, when I do have interactions, I try to be respectful to people, but I'm mindful that, you know, I mean, I don't know how far you take this, you know, if you are a darker skin color than mine, it's harder. In every culture, the darkest people are the most oppressed. Could be the Jewish community, could be the Italians, the Sicilians. You know, if you know Sicily's off of that boot, right. That's right by Africa. Sicilians are very dark and they have big bushy afros. The Italians look down upon them. In Brazil, when I go to Brazil, I picked up by this great, beautiful black guy, and I talked to him about that immediately. He goes, absolutely. He's like, actually, my parents want me to marry somebody light skinned.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, you didn't want to go down this path, but so
that's good.
Yeah, that's what people deal with. You know, you deal with it when I'm in school and people say, hey, whenever you play something, it sounds jazzy to me. Now, I didn't really get into jazz until I got to college. My father listened to classical music most all day, and then he liked jazz on the side, and he took us to jazz concerts. But most everything I heard at home was all classical music.
So that was already a stereotype. Right. I mean,
that was a stereotype to say that I was sounding jazzy because I hadn't really gotten that together yet. I listened to Louis Armstrong, probably. That was the person I listened to the most. I really didn't know Clifford Brown. I liked Dizzy because it was fast and it was intriguing. Listened to a little bit of Miles. But my guy was Maurice Andre. I saw him 5 times when I was a kid. I told my dad because he was touring back then. Best part of Maurice Andre, he's playing that piccolo trumpet, and organ recital. All I can think about these is how much money did you get for that? Because it's only 2 people, right?
Right.
I'm thinking economics, you know?
Right.
And he's playing and he messed up something I'd never heard. He went like, guess what he did? He started laughing.
Yeah.
Then he went, then he picked up his trumpet and proceeded to kick butt after that.
And like, nobody cared, right?
Nobody cared. Nobody cared. It was like a great musical experience for me to see a master just step on it like that. And then just like, I don't care. I'm playing music, man. This is all about. So, but he was my idol. I wanted to be him or I wanted to be herself. That was
Yeah.
my thing when I was coming up.
Yeah.
So I got to meet him backstage after seeing the Chicago Symphony when I was in high school. I was going to Interlochen Arts Academy. We drove up to Chicago and we waited outside for Herseth. And he came out and Mr. Herseth, and he was as nice as he could be. And talked to us for a few minutes, signed autographs and stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You know, Doc Severinsen, somebody I had, like everybody else, had watched on the Tonight Show for years and years, and sometimes you'd get that 5 second
Yep.
bumper either going to or coming back from commercial, and you're like, wait, I want more, you know. And now I've had the good fortune over the last few years to get to know Doc.
Yep.
And it's not anything like I would ever have imagined. He gives you the time of day. He's the superstar, but he gave, I watched this at Miami ITG last year. This 14-year-old kid comes up to the Shires booth. There's my shameless promotion for Shires, by the way. This kid comes up and gets Doc's attention, and Doc, I mean, the booth there, everybody wants to talk to him, right?
Yep.
He is one-on-one with this kid, listening as this kid, who I wonder if he really appreciates what Doc is giving him.
Who is this guy? Yeah.
Right. And I think he did. But what I saw was, this is what it's supposed to be like. This is one of the superstars of music.
Yes.
Being a great human being. And that's what I look at Doc right now. And I think his best work, his best influence has been since the Tonight Show, because his encouragement and his promotion of music and trumpet since then has just been spectacular.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I
apologize. I went off on a little tangent.
No, well, I wanted to tell you about what we're talking about with race and Doc Severinsen. So Doc Severinsen, he's a dear friend, and he said, Byron, I think the best thing for race relations was Clark Terry. He said, because he would go into schools. You might have crossed the street if you saw this black guy, Clark Terry, coming towards you before a concert, like, oh, who's that? After the concert, you were in love with him. Right? The music did it, because Clark would always, I don't know if you ever, Clark would always sign autographs, the last person, whoever it was. So usually if he went to a high school or a college, there was a line that wrapped around all the way back into the thing, and he signed every autograph. And the mothers, the kids, all, they wanted to hug him, and they wanted to tell him what an experience it was for you. So really, maybe we as artists, in terms of race, in terms of love and all that, that's who we are. And we can deliver that. That's why we got to get back onto the stage, to your point. We can deliver that through music, because there's not that dogma. I'm the principal pops conductor, newly appointed of the Pittsburgh Symphony.
Oh, congratulations.
And that happened in January, and then we had the
right.
My first concert's supposed to be October. They're like, we don't know.
Right.
But why did I mention that? Talking about so I was in Florida, and they're like, oh, you're going to be in Florida, come talk to our donors, because they have a summer, a winter thing they do in Florida. And I was playing with the Naples Philharmonic. So I asked some of their donors, I said, let's talk about your experiences. Tell me, what it means like to love the orchestra, the Pittsburgh Symphony, this much, and what have been your experiences in the concert hall? And a guy said, he says, I'm a very religious man. He says, but I have to tell you, I think my best religious experiences or uplifting experiences have been in the concert hall. Right? So the music can get to people that way. And he says, when I hear, that's why I'm a fan now. When I hear the Pittsburgh Symphony, I'm lifted. I'm better than when I walked in the concert hall. We have the power to do that as musicians. And I think jazz musicians need to realize that, and classical musicians need to realize it too, that we can change lives, that the theater is a magical place. And I feel that all the concerts that happen in those great theaters are still swirling around there, and we can latch onto those and continue to uplift people through what we play. It's a tremendous responsibility, and it's needed now more than ever. And so when we go back, Larry, we have to really play our butts off because the world needs us right now more than they know, because music can cut through all the dogma, whether it be religion, whether it be politics, or all of this craziness. You just hear that sound, all that orchestra coming to you, then that trumpet. See, I always say the trumpet the trumpet shall sound and the dead will be raised. So we are the most important thing in any orchestra and any organization.
Amen. Right.
You and I can agree with that, right?
Yes, absolutely.
But the glorious sound of that trumpet, when you hear a Herseth, when you hear a Schluter, when you hear a Phil Smith, do that for you.
Mm-hmm.
This is when the goosebumps begin to come for us and for hopefully for people too.
Mm-hmm.
So we are charged with that, and every career is about service. And we have to always be asking, how can I serve? How can I serve?
Mm-hmm.
And with music, we can do it through lifting people up.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't think anything can follow that up. I mean, that's as profound as it gets right there. I can't believe we're over an hour, and I want to respect your time.
Oh,
yeah. But you know what? I'd love to get back together another time and maybe talk a little bit more, maybe post COVID, see what happens. And
that'd be a good idea.
And we're not that far. I'm in Indy, right?
Yeah.
So maybe once things clear up, I can drive your way and I'll buy you.
No, would love to. And I actually in Indianapolis had inquired about me coming back again, but I just wasn't like the next year.
Mm-hmm.
I was totally booked. I'm not booked anymore. But
yeah, right.
You know how hard it is to look at your schedule and just see every day the gigs start. Somebody calls up now where I'm actually supposed to have some gigs at the end of August. I'm going to conduct the St. Louis Symphony with my ragtime show I have. They're going to social distance the audience for that one. So that's booked. The Western Michigan Symphony, they're going to film it for their audience or live stream concert that I'll do with them. So there are some things coming up. Let's hope that they don't get canceled. But
yeah, it just thought, and this may sound funny, I hope it does, but avant-garde jazz has been social distancing people for decades, right? So
we call that free jazz. You play it for free.
Yeah, right. There you go. So, well, okay, I'll wrap things up, and then I want to talk to you about maybe some other people you suggest I should get in touch with. So let me just say, my face is killing me. I've been smiling and laughing so much.
That's the goal.
And I have so enjoyed talking to you, but listening. What an absolute treat this has been for me. So thank you for the time.
Thank you for having me. It's been a joy to talk to you.
Thank you.